All right, everybody, welcome to Buc What You Heard. My name is Gene. I'll be talking a little bit of draft here today because you know what? Tomorrow is the big day. Tomorrow is like a holiday for football fans where you get to see who your team brings in to improve to push you to the Super Bowl, which is where everybody wants to be. As you can tell, I'm excited. I got my draft hat. I'm ready. I pick up some crab legs tomorrow. Hint, hint. So you know what? I'm ready. Let's get this show going. Let's get hype. Let's be excited. And no matter what happens, what we want this year are wins. And that kind of segues into the first part of this. Is the off season for me is the most miserable part of being an NFL football fan. And the reason I say that, because you've got different factions, especially when you have high draft picks. And the Bucs have had high draft picks for a long time. So there's always in the offseason a division. Do you want Morris Claiborne, or uh, do you want Mark Barron, or do you want Luke Kuechly? Do you want Johnny Manziel? Do you want Teddy Bridgewater? Do you want uh, Mike Evans? And sometimes it divides a fan base, and it's really, for me, it's because at the end of the day, none of us are the GM, none of us are the scouts, none of us are the head coach. So, with that being said, this is all conjecture. This is based on what you would like to see the team do. But the one thing that gets missed with all of this is the team picking up wins. And to me, that is the key to being a fan. Winning those games, getting into the playoffs, getting back to the Super Bowl, bringing another trophy back here to Tampa. And that's what's important to me. And that's what I think that the fan base is really missing. And you talk to a lot of fans here for the Bucs, and nobody's thinking NFC South or contending to get to the playoffs. Everybody's thinking about, hey, we're going to make it to we might get 8 wins. We may possibly get to 500. But there's nothing wrong with saying, you know what? If we get the right formula together, we get the right players, now that we have an offensive coordinator, anything is possible. You know, anything is possible. You look back a couple of years ago and look at the Carolina Panthers and just think about the Carolina Panthers then and what kind of team they had. And everybody wanted the coach fired. And all of a sudden, here they are, 2 years in a row going to the playoffs. And you know what? You look at that team, and the one thing that they have is continuity. One thing they have is a head coach that stayed in place for a long period of time. The ownership did not listen to the fan base. They kept this guy in place, let him get his system together. They realized that he walked into a bad salary cap situation, and you know what? They gave him time, and he's rewarded them with playoff victories. And for me, I think that our fan base, we really need to look at that and just be patient. I know the team's not done well since John Gruden. Raheem Morris had a 10-6 season, and we missed the playoffs by, you know. But there's nothing you can do about it. That's water under the bridge, and that kind of leads me back to what I was talking about earlier, where we see the management or the general manager, who at the time, Mark Dominic, was making all these draft picks. And we could even go even farther back and look at the players that John Gruden and and Bruce Allen had brought in here through via the draft, and how many of those players were able to stay. And the problem that a lot of people don't realize is the turnover. When you're having a lot of turnover with draft picks, with players, and you can't keep anybody in a system, it's hard to get that familiarity. It's hard to come up and say, you know what, we know what we're going to do next year. Let's build on it. And the next year you have to switch out. And I look at a good case in point was Raheem Morris. That was total chaos when he came in. I love Raheem Morris. I have a lot of respect for the he just wasn't ready to be a head coach, but he did a really good job with what he had, and the fact that he wasn't getting those draft picks in. And you look at what Mark Dominic was bringing him or sending him to work with, he had nothing. I look at the 2011 season. If Raheem Morris should have got fired, Mark Dominic should have got fired for putting that garbage team on the field. You know, that wasn't, coaches coach and the general managers handle the player personnel. And that was the situation there. So I think that what Raheem Morris had to work with at that time is an indictment on our general manager at that time, Mark Dominic. Fast forward to the next head coach, Greg Schiano. I was not, hindsight's 2020, but I was not happy with that move bringing this man in. I remember going to USF games and watching Rutgers play against USF and thinking, what kind of play calling is this guy doing? But for some reason, owners saw something in this guy and they brought him in. And fortunately, that was a demise of Mark Dominic. And, here we are now with Lovie Smith and Jason Light. And a lot of people are not happy with what they've seen from them so far. But to me, it's growing pains. I go back to Ron Rivera and what Ron Rivera inherited when he came into Carolina, and how after time he was able to get his scheme in, he was able to get his personnel in, and he was able to get a general manager that was able to fulfill his needs. NFC South had a tough time last year, but at the end of the day, we had a team that made it to the playoffs despite the record and got a win in the playoffs. So that speaks volumes about our division. It's neither here nor there, but I'm just saying that these are the kind of things that Buc fans need to look at. I do believe in, Lovie Smith and what he can do. The moves he makes, but you know what? At the end of the day, he's the head coach. I can't change that. The only thing I can do, I can change teams, but it's not going to change what he's doing. So, you kind of, as a fan, you have to roll with the punches. We've been here for a long time. We've been chugging along, and, this was a bad year for us last year, but I do believe that we will rebound. The fact that we have Dirk Cotter, I'm really excited about having him on our team, and I think that he's going to make a big difference for our offense. And I think that whatever quarterback we get, I have my ideas of who I'd like to see, but whatever quarterback we get here, I think he will help to make that person successful. And I say that because I go back to Matt Ryan, and I look at Matt Ryan in 2011, and then I see Matt Ryan in 2012, and it's like night and day. And I look at the scheme they put in, and they made it so quarterback friendly, and that's what I expect to see is going to be under center for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is basically a offense friendly type of team where we can move down the field and we can score and not have all the 3 and outs that we've had, not have all the turnovers, and actually make a difference and kind of help the defense out so that they're not on the field as long as they have been, and we're not putting all the pressure on them to do what they do. So, enough of me rambling about that. All I can say is I'm excited. I can't believe it's finally here. We finally get to go to the draft, and we get to watch the draft and see, who's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going to get. And the one thing that I will say is that in free agency, the regime has been very cautious with the moves that they've made this season, in this offseason, and I'm happy with it. I don't want to end up with another Michael Johnson, some of the other catastrophic players that we had. And, I don't want to end up with that again. I don't want to end up having to pay a player while he's on another team. That's pretty insulting when you just, when you break it all down. So what I'm thinking here is, the Buccaneers have gone out and got players, mostly defensive players, that are familiar with Lovie Smith's scheme. They have played in a scheme similar to this, so it's going to be easy for them to acclimate to what's going on. And the nice thing about the defense is the core players have had a year to be in this defense, and even in the offseason, kind of study and just be ready for next season. And I'm looking at a lot of the players that the Buccaneers have picked up in free agency, and I see a lot of players that will be ready. They'll be able to adjust to Lovie Smith's scheme, and I think that they'll be very successful as Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We won't see all the disappointments we saw last year. Based on my assessment of, my thought process of how they're going about doing this. So my hat's off to Jason Light and Lovie Smith. I think that it was a smart move what they did, and the moves that they've made. I know that and I'm one myself. I'm not going to sit here and say that this person's doing it when I'm doing it too. Our offensive line, the offensive line has not really been addressed at all. And I don't know what the scheme is here. If Lovie Smith, if he has plans to bring in free agents, we do have another second round of free agency coming up around June, so it is possible to plug in players on that line to help protect our quarterback, whoever that may be. But for me, I really do. Like I said, I like the moves that they've made, which for me it more comfortable. I think that they've taken their lumps last season, and I think that they're ready to make the next step. And it didn't help to not have an offensive coordinator and to have a play caller who's never called plays on this level before. I think that what the Bucs were able to do, two wins is, basically that's what you get with the offensive coordinator that you have, is just those 2 wins. And personally, I think the quarterbacks were mediocre. I thought that McCown was overpaid. That's me personally. I thought that I personally believe that Mike Glennon is going to be a good backup quarterback wherever he's at. I personally do not see this kid leading a team to the Super Bowl. I do not see this kid taking his team and putting them on his shoulders, driving down the field to win that game. I just don't see it. I've watched and watched and watched. I watched the games last year where he was the starter. He was hands down the starter, and that was his job to lose. And you can say what you want to about the offensive line, but some quarterbacks make those plays. Quarterbacks make plays. I saw a lot of plays where he held onto the ball too long. I saw other plays where he was indecisive and it cost him 3 and outs. Lots of 3 and outs. So I'm really hoping that, with this offensive coordinator coming in, I think that whoever we get at quarterback will be able to make a difference. So, with that being said, I know the main thing that we're all excited about is the draft, and who are you going to pick? Who are you looking at? Who do you think the Buccaneers are going to look at? And the one thing that I will say is I've heard everything 6 ways to Sunday. I've heard that the Bucs were going to trade their first pick to the Chicago Bears and get Jay Cutler and bring Jay Cutler in to the Tampa Bay. And I could not believe that somebody was stupid enough to come up with that concept. That doesn't make any sense. First and foremost, the Chicago Bears overpaid Jay Cutler by a lot. I can't even put a number to how much they overpaid him. But he had no business making the money that he was making, and he's never won a Super Bowl. So for me, he's one of those guys. As far as I'm concerned, he's just he's a step above a journeyman to me. He just doesn't have. I mean, and you've watched him play. I've watched him play. You could go on NFL Rewind and just pull up some of his games and see how he played. He just doesn't have it. And if you actually think that this organization would bring in a quarterback who may have maybe 3, maybe 4 years left, maybe, it's very short-sighted. And you don't have who you're going to bring in next. I think that if you have a chance to grab a franchise quarterback, that's what you do. Trying to get over a cold here. But you know, and speaking of the franchise quarterback, you can look no further than the NFC South. And let's go down the line here. You've got Drew Brees, you've got Matt Ryan, you've got Cam Newton, and then you got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Who do we have? I know a lot of people are talking about, oh, let's get Mike Glennon another chance. Let's get him in here. I just don't see it. He's had opportunity after opportunity to take that job, that starting quarterback position, and it just didn't happen. And you can say what you want to, no offensive coordinator, this, that, and the third. I can guarantee you that if they had a quarterback competition, and I'm being honest here, quarterback competition right now between Bill Hunley, Mariota, Winston, and Glennon, do you honestly believe that Glennon will outplay those quarterbacks that I just mentioned? Do you really believe that? That's kind of where I'm going with this. The team, if you're looking at Mike Glennon as the answer, that's kind of a mediocre look. You want somebody who you feel is going to lead you, is going to lead that team. And you just don't see that with this kid. As much as I like him, and I've got friends that will tell you I was on his side from the beginning. When they brought him in, when they benched Freeman and they brought him in, whatever happened, it happened. Hey, let's move on. We have another quarterback in place. So what Mike Glennon was able to do was good, but those numbers weren't spectacular. So that kind of showed me a little bit. I was like, I don't know. And then what Lovie Smith did by bringing in McCown and not having a quarterback competition, then I'm like, you know what? They should have had a competition in training camp to see who's the better quarterback. Because what you want is you want the quarterback that's going to give you the best chance to win. That's the guy you want leading your team. You don't want your favorite guy coming in here and trying to lead the team, because it doesn't work. It'll never work unless you've got a Drew Brees or a Phillip Rivers or somebody like that. It's not going to work. You have to have that competition, especially if you have subpar quarterbacks. You have to see who's the best one, who wanted it more, who played harder. But when you just hand the keys over to Josh McCown, and who was a career backup, by the way, it boggles my mind. And you know what Glennon was able to do, he did win a game. But you know, at the end of the day, I saw so many plays where he held onto the ball. So many plays was 3 and out, and we weren't moving the ball up and down the field. You know, I think that it's going to be good for the Buccaneers to grab a quarterback, whoever it may be, and I think that's definitely going to put this team in the right direction. I know a lot of naysayers are out there. Well, you know, not every quarterback is going to be good, and you know, you always run the risk of having a bust. Uh, I've heard people comparing Jameis Winston to Jamarcus Russell, and that I just feel my brain oozing out of my ears. I'm like, who? What? Are you kidding me? We're talking about Jamarcus Russell, the guy who used to fall asleep in team meetings. Does that sound like a guy that has a desire to win? Does that sound like a guy that has a desire to get in there and improve his game? No. That guy got paid. That guy walked away, and that's all there is to it. He wasn't trying to be a great quarterback. Now, what I've done, I've gone back and watched a lot of his highlights. This dude has an arm that's like, could you imagine if he was as hungry as a Jameis Winston when he wanted to go in there and hone his skills, improve his football IQ, and better yet, lead the team? Could you imagine what he could have done with the physical tools that he had? Okay, so I mean, and we see what happened. We see he's trying to make a few comebacks, and that hasn't worked. So you know, let's pretty much. So what I'm getting back to is you've got these people. I don't know if it's ownership. I don't know if it's scouts. I don't know who's really saying it, But you got people comparing Winston to Jamarcus Russell. Now, what I was kind of thinking when I read this article, because I've read about 2 or 3 articles talking about this, wait a minute. Why are you downplaying Jameis Winston? Is this so that maybe his stock will drop? Or do you genuinely feel like this kid is that bad? Well, I don't know. I most asinine thing that you could say to compare a Jameis Winston to a Jamarcus Russell. There is no comparison other than the fact that they're both played quarterback, and that's it. Basically, that's it. So I don't know. It boggles my mind, and I just want to go on record saying this has been the worst draft journalism I have ever seen in my life. The stupid stories that are coming out, the I'm at a loss. I mean, I don't even know where to start. It's just been horrible. The rumors that have come out, basically like the Jay Cutler rumor. I heard, I even heard Phillip Rivers was coming to Tampa for that first pick. And and these are people that are getting paid to do what they do. I don't get paid to do this. I love doing it. I love my team. I love talking about my team. That's why I'm on here, because this is what I love. So for me, that's I don't get it. I don't get it. And I've gone on record, and I'm on Facebook. I've admin for a few pages on Facebook that talk about the Tampa Bay Bucks. And you know what? I've really found that there are a lot of times where you just want it to all be over with. And right now we're on the eve of probably a franchise changing, good or bad or otherwise. It's going to change a franchise with this pick tomorrow. Let's be honest. Big time pick. First overall pick in the draft. Could be good, could be bad. But I tell you what, it's gonna be a fun ride. We're gonna see where everything goes. Now, let's get to the draft, and I'll let you know. I was supposed to go on last night. We're supposed to do some picks. Things didn't work out, and so here we are. But I really would like to give you guys my thoughts on where the Buccaneers really need to improve. And the first thing that I can say is that edge rusher. The Buccaneers have not had a really solid edge rusher since Simeon Rice. You can debate me on this if you want to. I would love to hear some names of players that you would put in the same breath as Simeon Rice that the Buccaneers have had since he left the team. And I would be curious to see that. But kind of moving on, that's a position where we're really hurting at. And when you look at the Tampa 2, or whatever Lovie Smith is calling this defense, this Tampa Bay defense, you have to get pressure on the quarterback without a doubt. And I tell you what, when you look at the scheme, when you've got your front four getting pressure on the quarterback, it makes your job a lot easier for your secondary and your linebackers, because once you're getting pressure on the quarterback, he's having to get rid of the ball faster than he normally does. But when you're not getting pressure on the quarterback, he's got time to scan the field, go make a sandwich, make a cell phone call, come back, go set his DVR, and then, that's pretty much what we saw last season. At the beginning, I would say the beginning to about the last 3 games of the season, that's what you saw. No pressure on the quarterback. Gerald McCoy, I love you. I love you. For real. What you've been able to do with the injuries that you've had, what you've come back from, I love you. I love your heart. I love that you are about this team and what you actually bring to this defense. I love you. And I really hope that the Buccaneers can find that edge rusher to get some pressure off of you so you can do what you do. I cannot express, how much what I really think about this guy. But at the end of the day, we signed him to that big contract, and I think it's well earned. I do believe it's well deserved. So, my hat's off to him, and I'm really happy. But what we need to do, the Bucs do need to get that edge rusher. We need that guy that can get around the corner and get after those Drew Breeses, get after the Cam Newtons, make Cam Newton step up in the pocket, uh, make Drew Brees uncomfortable, make Matt Ryan uncomfortable. That's what we need to be doing, because that's what the Tampa 2 is predicated on, is getting that pressure on the quarterback. And once we can do that, it's going to make all the other positions so much easier everything will work a lot smoother as long as you're getting pressure on the quarterback. I mean, you go back to that Buccaneers defense when they went to the Super Bowl. That's what they did. From Warren Sapp to, you look at Warren Sapp and what he was able to do. You look at that front line, the front four, and what they were able to do were amazing. It was fun to watch that. That was something that was really fun to watch. So that's what Lovie Smith is trying to get back to. For one thing, getting pressure on the quarterback. And after that, then you want to look at your middle linebacker position. With Mason Foster going to Chicago, uh, do we have depth in these positions? To be honest, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers do not have depth in a lot of positions. They've got some players that do well, like your Altron Werner at corner. You've got Joe McCoy, as I mentioned before, and they brought in some free agents, and we'll just have to see how these free agents fit into the scheme and how all this is going to play out. And like I said, with the defense and Lovie Smith being a defensive-minded coach, I think that we're going to be able to make the adjustments and really do good and get pressure on these teams. So from what I'm seeing, I think that direction, but we still need a lot more pieces. So without further ado, let's start looking at the draft. I've got my picks from number 1 to number 7. I know a lot of you guys may not agree with them, but I think it's fun. This is part of it. The NFL, to me, that's fun, where you can say, hey, this is who I'd like to play. I would like playing on my team. This guy looked good, and I'd like to have him. So that's kind of where we're going to start at. And so what we'll do, we'll put me on the clock here, and with the first overall pick, I'm going with Jameis Winston. And I know that a lot of people out there are worried about his interceptions. I know a lot of people are worried about his off the field antics, so to speak. But let me just say, I've done stuff way worse than this guy could have ever done. And I can tell you right now, I have not gotten in trouble. It all up. I have not gotten in trouble. I've not been to jail. That's just it. People deserve a second chance. This guy realizes that he can be the face of a franchise, so he needs to change things around. And you listen to his story. I know a lot of people think that he's trying to sell people on him, like Johnny Manziel did last year, but you can't compare the two, because I can get into that at a later time. But just sticking with Jameis Winston and everything that's gone on with him, I would not be happier with anybody else than having him. I look at all and I know a lot of this stuff is self-inflicted, but a lot of the drama that Jameis Winston has had over the past 2 years, he's still gone on to play one undefeated season and a one-loss season, won a national championship, won a Heisman Trophy. So that's what I see. That's what I want to see. I want a quarterback that wants to win. And you listen to him. He wants to win. They showed interviews. I've seen interviews with baseball players that were on his team, and he wants to win at everything. He's competitive like that. My nephew was up in Tallahassee for a long time. Spoke nothing but good things about this kid, man. I just think that maturity, he was just being immature on a lot of stuff. And I think everybody deserves a second chance. A lot of people have gotten them. And I know that a lot of people that are bad mouthing Jameis Winston have bigger skeletons in their closet than what he's got. So let's just be real here. Uh, the crab legs. For me, I love crab legs. I think, hey, I would have grabbed crab legs. I'd have taken crab legs over shrimp. Personally, you know what? It is what it is. He served his time. Let's move on. Okay? That was a hookup gone bad. Now, hookups I had in college, shoes from Foot Locker. I had Jordans every time Jordans came out. Didn't pay a dime. But you know what? That's just how it was. It's just the nature of the beast. So as far as the crab legs go, it's a hookup gone bad. Let's leave it at that and let's move on. And then there's the alleged rape. I've read the transcripts. You know what happened? Rape is bad. Let me go on record saying rape is bad. I know people who've been victims of rape. So I'm not going to take this lightly, but I will say this, based on what I've read, based on what I've seen, and based on what other people have told me, I can honestly say that I can't put a whole lot of stock in what this victim is saying. If you got a prosecutor that walks away, because you can indict a ham sandwich. Let's be real. If they really wanted to, they could put the screws to somebody. You could indict a ham sandwich. But chose not to take this case. They didn't think there was enough evidence. This lady has changed her stories multiple times. This lady has gone on record saying this and then turned around and saying that. So, at the end of the day, there's so many conflicting stories, you don't know what to believe. So I'll leave it at that. If this goes to trial, their civil lawsuit has been filed. I would love to see, everything come out. I mean, everything. The Twitter account that she dropped, the Instagram account that she dropped, just all this other stuff that she's gotten rid of to make herself look different. I'd love to see that. I want to see what Jameis's roommates. I mean, there's just so many things that would clear all this up. But as of right now, I just, I'll be more than happy to come on here live and say, hey, I'm wrong. Jameis, you're a scumbag. Why'd you? But what I've seen so far, he hasn't been convicted. He hasn't even been arrested for it. So, you know what? Let's move past that. Wait till all the facts come out, and then you make your decision. You make your judgment at that time. So for me, off the field antics, everything that I've looked at all the stuff that he's done, and I'm sorry, I've done way worse. So miss me with that. And all the people that are holier than thou, you really need to look in the mirror. Take a deep, long look in the mirror. Hey, I don't have to tell you, you know yourself better than anybody. So all you people that are down in this man, take a look in the mirror, and let's just move on. So for my first pick, Jameis Winston at quarterback from Florida State. I'm really excited, and I do believe that his interviews went well. I've read articles where he's been at Mike Allstott's foundation. They've had he was at a Florida State gathering. There's a picture with him and Derek Brooks and Deion Sanders. I just believe if you have the right people, if you have the right system set up for him for off the field, I believe he'll be just fine. I really do. He's a humble kid, but he just wants to win. He's very confident. I don't think he's arrogant. I think he's confident. So let's just leave it at that. All right. So Jameis Winston being my number one overall pick, that's what everybody's excited about. I mean, you've got Florida State fans that are starting to become Bucs fans, and I think that everybody's going to jump on the bandwagon. And I personally believe the Bucs are going to start winning. A lot of people may not. A lot of people may think we're going to be 500. But I looked at the schedule, and I don't see anybody that we can't beat. And that's just my personal opinion on it. So with that being said, I just think that that's the way things could possibly shake out for us. I think we win some games here. And I'm trying to bear with me one moment. I've got somebody who's actually in Chicago for the draft, and I'd like to see if I can get him on. And we'll see if we can get him on. I really wanted to go to this. This is the first time that uh, since what 1986, I believe, that the Buccaneers have had that opportunity to have the first overall pick. So at that time we took Vinny Testaverde, and the rest is history. So it's pretty exciting. It's exciting times. All right. So um, mm, mm. all right. Let's see. All right. Well, I can't get him on. What I will try, actually going to try to call him, and just I'm going to try to call him, see if I can put him on speakerphone, and see if we can talk that way. I know it's kind of ghetto, but that's the way this show is, right? That's how we roll. So we will see if we can get him on here, and see what happens. But it's like I said, it's really exciting times. I hate that I hate I couldn't be there. So we'll see if he calls in here. But just going back to let's get back to the draft here. And for my second pick, uh, it's somebody that I'm really surprised that more people are not on his bandwagon. But I love this guy, Cam Irving, center. Eight. That's a guy that I would love to see in a Buccaneers uniform. Would love it. And you know what? Just looking at some of these different some of the different drafts, the one thing that I did notice is that Cam Irving fell to the second round. It's the one thing I noticed. So I'm really hoping that he is available, because you know what? I would pick him up. I would get him. I do believe that he is one of those players that you could actually plug in and have him ready to go at the beginning of the season. And that's kind of what the Buccaneers need right now, are these players. And as we go along, that's when you fill in the gaps. And that's what you're wanting to do. You're wanting to get these players that are going to be around for a long time. And I do believe that with the Cam Irving, I think that he would be that player that will definitely be around for quite some time. So with my second pick in the number 2 pick in the second round, up right now would be Cam Irving. Now we move on. As I mentioned before, and I kind of got off schedule here, but the Buccaneers are hurting in a lot of positions, and the one thing that was painfully obvious was the offensive line. You look at the offensive line, and you see uh, missing blocks. You see the quarterback was rushed more times than not. They rarely gave him an opportunity. Whoever the quarterback was, whether it was Glennon or McCown, neither one of those guys had a chance to set up in the pocket and scan the field and get that ball out. There was just so many different things that the offensive line. I felt that with Logan Mankins coming, I felt like that would definitely be a plus for us. I'm not sure if he was injured, or I'm not really sure what happened with Logan Mankins, but I do expect him to be back up to Pro Bowl status this season. I really do believe that's what's going to happen. And I think just having players like that in place, I think is gonna make a big difference. And it's going to be easier for us to get these other players rotated in and get them game ready as the season progresses, because we are going to have injuries. I mean, it's very rare that you have a football team that does not have a significant injury here and there. And just kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier on, is that the Buccaneers have not been able to keep those draft picks and get that foundation built to where they can bring in more people and do that kind of thing. Hold on 1 second for me. Hello.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, not too much, man. Doing my podcast right now. I just kind of wanted to see what's the vibe over there in Chicago, and there are a lot of Bucs fans right now.
Yeah, it's quite a few of us.
All right. What's the agenda? What do y'all got planned for this? What do y'all got planned tonight and tomorrow?
You say what?
What do y'all have planned tonight and tomorrow?
Well, right now, yeah, we are just, figuring out some, what's like the music group. I watch the Tampa Bay Lightning game right now, and tomorrow they have some draft activity that's going on. They start like around, I want to say 3 or 4, and pretty much, just preparing for the draft, for the ones who on this side and on this side, and they have a separate section outside the park, for the fans to participate. So that's pretty much what we all gearing up for.
Okay. So are there a lot of activities for fans?
Say that one more time?
Are there a lot of activities for the fans out there? I've never actually been to the draft, so I'm not, I wouldn't, and just was kind of curious.
They haven't given us access to the location. So I just like to, I don't want to say like a fan says, so we haven't had access into it yet. So what, what's actually going to take place or not. So we won't actually know until that time tomorrow.
Oh, okay. I see.
So, of course, like what's going I can't tell, of course, all the networks right here. So, chicken.
Oh, okay. So will we be able to see y'all on TV?
I don't know. It depends on what we're doing, where we at.
I see. All right. Well, that's all I wanted. I just wanted to get a feel of what was going on there, and we're all excited about the draft tomorrow. So, who do you think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, are going to draft with the #1 overall pick?
I honestly do not know. One thing that Lovey and Life have been consistent with is they've been very consistent with both streams since they've been in office, especially in all seasons. All signs point to Jameis Winston, and of course, that's why I'm really hoping, that we go. But I still think Marcus Mariota is in the mix, and I also think that it's still a potential that we trade down. But all signs point, to Winston, but then again, we don't know, until that pick is called. So, but to say what I honestly don't know, but all signs point to Winston.
Well, let me ask you this: if you're the GM, if you are the GM,
no doubt. Okay. Without a doubt, without question, Jameson. Okay, and this is coming from a fan. By all means, in the beginning, there was some bias in the beginning because of the in-state rival, but at the end of the day, when it comes to drafting the best player for our team, Jameis Winston is that player. You're talking about a player that's coming out of a pro-style offense. You're talking about a player that can make all of the throws. You're talking about a player, that knows how to use the pocket. Knows how to make accurate throws from the top. It's not great. His IND injury, last year. And part of that, is a decision maker, but then again, too, you have less talent on.
right?
So I look at it from this perspective. Maybe Cameron Irvin, who else is going to be drafted, in the first round? Well, maybe, but the guard might go second or maybe third round. Green is projected in the fourth and fifth round. I have a feeling that the tight end might even go undrafted.
Yeah, and I haven't even got to that on the show yet. But I was just talking about Cam Irving, and I would really love to see him in a Buccaneers uniform. I think that he's somebody who is ready right now, that you could actually plug him in and get him through training camp, and I think he'll be good to go at the beginning of the season. And what's funny with looking at his talent and his skill set, I've looked at a lot of other players, and I cannot see why all these draft boards have him dropping to the second round.
And like I told, I tell individuals who, that I discussed this with, please show me film, because based off the film that I'm seeing, I'm just seeing a completely different player than what they're portraying, to be. And as far as the off the field issues, I keep my personal opinion to myself in regards to that. But based off the player, what I'm seeing on the field is James Winston.
Oh, most definitely.
The Tampa Bay, we speak every now and about this franchise quarterback, which is our entire existence. It is time. This is our opportunity. Players like James only come once every 10 years. So now it's time, man, let's just stop fooling ourselves. Draft this guy. So of course, to answer your question, if I was the GM, definitely no doubt, James.
Absolutely. All right. Hey, Rashad, I thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it, man. And you have to check out the show on YouTube. I'll get you the link when everything's over, so you kind of see how everything went. But I appreciate you taking the time to call in. All right. All right. So that was Rashad, and that's kind of the consensus that I'm hearing. Everybody wants to see Jameis Winston come to Tampa. And like I said, I'm really excited about it, and but you never know. We're not a GM, and we're not a head coach, so we don't know what can happen. That number one pick could net other picks down the way. I personally do not see how, without a quarterback in this league and the way they've changed the rules, you need a quarterback. You need somebody that's going to lead your team. Yeah, you know what? I hear the argument about the Ravens and how the Buccaneers, who is a game manager. Well, you know what? This is 2015, and if you can't get the ball down the field, you're in a world of hurt. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers showed that last year with only 2 wins, having quarterbacks that were subpar or mediocre that couldn't get the job done. So I think that, it's in the best interest of the Buccaneers to grab that quarterback, whether it's Mariota or Winston or whoever it may be. I think it's their best interest to go ahead and do that. So, we've talked about my number 2 pick, which was Cam Irving. And for my number 3 pick, I'm looking at possibly Tyrus Thompson. Now, Tyrus Thompson is interesting because he's got all the skills. When you look at Tyrus Thompson, the guy is a monster. I mean, you're talking about a guy he's huge. He's 6'5", 324 pounds. And you're talking about 34-inch long span. And this guy is running like, high fives in the 40. I think that, what he's going to be able to do is I think he's somebody that you could actually put in and get a lot of use out of on that offensive line. I know a lot of people may not agree with me, and they think that he kind of is more of a reacher and a grabber when it comes to the run game. But I really do believe that he's going to. I think that he would be of benefit to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, especially, since we've been kind of talking about the offensive line and how that line is looking. So that's somebody that I would personally like to see in my number 3 pick would be Tyrus Thompson. Now, for my number 4 pick, and this was one I wasn't sure. I was kind of going back and forth. At first, I was looking at DJ Humphries, who's an offensive tackle. And I was like, you know what, man, I think that would be a good pick. But then, I'm still thinking, going what we were talking about earlier on, is having that at edge rusher. So I was kind of looking at Marcus Golden. And I think that Marcus Golden, if he's available, would be an ideal pick in the 4th round. I think the kid could possibly be in the 3rd round, but if he drops that far and we're able to get him, that would be an awesome pick. Because you're talking about a guy who runs a 4.9 4.9 40, and you're talking about somebody who's like he weighs 260. He's the guy is huge. And I just really do believe that he would be that guy, 6'2", 260. Uh, I think he would be a good person to put on that line to really help the Buccaneers out. I just think that that would be a good pick for me. And I mean, as you can see, Missouri is really good. I mean, me being a University of Kansas alumnus, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Missouri over the past 3 or 4 years has been really good about getting defensive linemen into the NFL. So that would be a guy that I would look for in the 4th round. And, if he's available, that would be my guy. So with that being said, we can kind of move on to the 5th round. And for me in the 5th round, I wasn't sure about this. I've been kind of going back and forth. Uh, my pick, I still kind of, I'm not real sure about this, and I still have to do a little bit more research on him. But I was looking at Darrell Williams, and Darrell Williams, I think, offensive tackle out of Oklahoma, is another player that I think is very athletic, and I think that he may be somewhat of a project, but I do believe that, in the right system, playing to his strengths, I think that he could possibly be of benefit to the Buccaneers. So, with my number 5 pick, Darrell Williams is that pick. Now, down the list, we're looking at round 6. Uh, I'm sticking. Most of my picks were for the offensive line, and I know that's probably not how it's going to happen, but I think you need as much help as you can get. And a lot of the unsigned free agents are going to unsigned draft picks are going to come in to camp as well. And I'm sure that we'll get 1 or 2 players that way as well. But for me, Mitch Morris, another Missouri product, uh, is another guy, offensive tackle, that I would really like to see possibly come into the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So with my last pick in the 7th round, I'm looking at possibly picking up Trenton Brown from Florida, and he's an offensive tackle. And he's an offensive tackle guard, and I do believe with that versatility that there could possibly be a place for him on this team as well. So those were my picks. I know I've kind of been all over the road, but I'm just really, the draft is here, and I'm really excited about it. I personally think that all these changes and all these upgrades, and I think that everything that's happened has been an upgrade over last year. I don't think that we've put ourselves in a position to be in this type of spot next year. I think you're going to see more wins, and I really do believe that the Buccaneers will contend for the NFC South and possibly go into the playoffs. And that's my take on it. And I really appreciate you taking the time to watch my show. And I'm going to go ahead and leave you with this. I believe that everybody deserves a second chance, no matter who you are. I believe that to each his own. Everybody's going to, everybody has made mistakes in life. And most people learn from mistakes. Some people don't. So if it's Jameis Winston you're looking at, and the only thing that's bothering you is an off the field antic, to that. Give the guy a chance. Let's see what he's got, and let's win some games. Marcus Mariota, I would be personally, I would be just as happy if Marcus Mariota is picked up as well. Uh, I think that, based on what I've seen, he's got a good arm. He's mobile. The mobile thing kind of scares me, but he's somebody that, if the Bucs picked him up, I wouldn't be upset and jump ship and switch allegiances to another team. It's just all part of the evolution of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But anyway, I want everybody to enjoy the draft. Uh, Coming up tomorrow, I will be doing a show next week. I'm going to have a special guest on, and I think, if you tune in, I think you'll be really excited. You've seen, if you are a sports person, I'm sure you've seen his video on Twitter, and I'm sure you've seen his video on Facebook. So that's all I'm going to say about it, and I'm really excited, and you're really going to like him, and we'll have him on next week. Thank you, and everybody have a good night.